Hello, and welcome to Fables from the Pickled Quipper. I am, as it turns out, not your Dungeon Master Phil. I'm actually Rich, who plays Esker, filling in for the intro this week. As we left off last time, our party had travelled to the little village of Holmesford as part of Silverius's quest to become a more higher standing member of his order. There we interviewed a few of the locals to find out what was happening with this strange boy Riskin. We joined back up with things as we were escorting our escort back to the town hall after he injured himself doing some poor woodcutting. Sit back and find out what a mess we make of this whole situation.
In that case, let's start session 16 of Fables from the Pickled Quipper. Yeah. Right, so
Yeah, let's do this thing.
you currently have a bleeding Jolly. Think you're currently on your way to the town hall. You guys have bleeding Jolly. What are you going to do?
Fine, we'll make our way back.
And I threw him over my shoulder.
Okay. You're able to make it back to the. It's not very far. And you're back at the town hall. A couple of people have taken notice of the fact that Silverius has Jolly slung over his back, saturated red, like pant leg, from all the blood that's seeped out of him.
Place him down on a chair somewhere. I look at the others like,
He was careless and he cut him off. And Claire, do what you need.
Yeah, as soon as he sets him down, Claire is gonna run over to him and start inspecting the wound.
Okay. Make medicine check. Silverius, make a persuasion check.
That would be an 18 medicine check for Claire.
So, with your medicine check, Claire, you looking the window over. It is deep. It is dirty, and without care, could easily infect and result in best case scenario loss of leg, worst case scenario loss of life. Fortunately, you are trained. You do have your healer's kit, I believe. So you can start patching them up if you like.
If you don't have one, you can borrow mine. So I think I have.
Yeah,
I'll
I
kinda
actually
hand it
don't
over.
think. Yeah, I don't think actually Claire has a healer's kit.
Oh, for some reason I thought you did. Okay.
I'll set it down next to you, and you can do your thing.
Okay. I'll just apply the same roll. So it takes you, especially because you're not used to healing in this way. It takes you a little while, but certainly you would have been trained in this as part of your preparation for heading out into the world. It's not like you're completely out of your depth, but you use a bit of water to clean the wound out. You have there's in the kit you've got various appropriate herbs and so on that can help keep the wound clean moving forward, and then you bandage it up as well as you can. So viruses, you kind of try to win people over. You are met with very skeptical expressions. You think you've probably won them over, but you also think you need to proceed with extreme caution.
while Claire is administering aid to Jorley, what's the room layout as far as distance to surrounding people? Who's in the room by chance?
So you took him inside, is that correct? Or did you? I wasn't sure if you took him. Okay. So inside then, a couple of the sort of regular folk kind of followed you guys in. The room itself was quite small. There's probably like maybe 30 feet across by 30 feet. I mean, it's really not big. And then there's the table at one end where the elders sit. Inside, Carrick is there, the human young human, elder. The other two are currently not present. The halfling Verna and the dwarf Dane. But some of the other townsfolk were watching. Carrick, once he kind of was just appeared to be working with some notes, didn't really pay too much attention when you guys came in. Once he kind of heard the commotion a bit and realized that, kind of sensed the tone in the room, he came over and is kind of approached and what's going on? Why is this man bleeding all over the floor?
He was careless, chopping wood, but his own action is...
I see. That looks... You see, he looks very pale all of a sudden as he kind of takes a slightly closer look. And he says, that looks very unpleasant. Do you have this under control?
I would say looking at Claire, dutifully working away. We would look back to him and just nod.
He should be fine.
Right. Well, good. Carry on. And he sort of slightly stumbles back to his chair a little bit. Seems to be a little bit overcome with the blood there. But he lets you to your business. And then once he's kind of sat down and takes a little sip from a drink, he gestures to one of the children who followed you guys in and says, "Go find Verna and Dane. I'm meaning to speak."
When he says that, Savarius just says,
Just curious, where are they currently?
I'm not their keepers. Presume they had some business to attend to while you were talking to the townsfolk.
Presumably.
kind of walk over to Cosette and whisper, or I guess, yeah, whisper her to kind of, if I can.
Cosette, I have a question. Have you had much time dealing with interrogations, maybe more questionings, extracting truth should one need, not in a violent manner?
I've read up on a lot of good interrogation techniques. I've never really had a chance to try them.
Not that I'm wishing to torture anyone, but something is strange in this town. My capabilities aren't of the inquiring sort, through subtle.
Yeah, if I can help in any way you think. I don't know. Who did you have in mind that maybe has more information than they're letting on?
We have yet to speak with Riskin. He is still a shadow of understanding. But the other two, Dane and Verna, they seem to be, I have a feeling about them, and it could be wrong, but a halfling and a dwarf, who I believe are, they are in the position of power, and the fact that magic is so rare here, things are just unusual.
I agree. Something's funny about this place, and even more funny than the other places we've been around here. We're not getting the whole story.
Keep an eye out.
She just nods.
Are the walls pretty plain? Is there like any particular art?
No, it's very bland. There are some windows that do let in light, but That's it. There's no artwork. There's no sort of like framed town charter or anything like that. It's a very simple and somber affair.
Okay.
How much longer do we think is it until they plan on lighting the torch, as it were?
Maybe an hour. The hiccup with Jorley has definitely cost some time.
Carrick,
Yes?
might we be permitted to now speak with the detained?
I suppose. I had intended for Jorley to take you, but maybe it's... Fine, I'll just take you myself. Come on. And he stands up and heads for the door and just sort of gives Jorley what is perhaps intended to be a sort of reassuring pat on the shoulder, but it's a little too hard and a little too careless and kind of jars him a little bit. Jorley kind of grimaces as it puts pressure on his leg. Carrick doesn't seem to notice. Says, right, follow me.
Claire glares at his back, and then when she stands up, she gives Darley like a much softer, comforting pat on the shoulder.
He kind of looks up at you and smiles a little. Still a little grimace, but mostly smile. And Carrick heads out of the building, and presumably you follow. And he leads you around to the back of the town hall, away from like the opposite side of where the door is, and maybe just 50 feet back from the back of the building. There's a small wooden shack with just looks like a random guy standing outside, sort of resting on a stick. Maybe it's supposed to be a staff, but it kind of just looks like a stick. He straightens up a little bit when he sees Carrick walk over. Human male, probably late 20s. And Carrick says, "Okay, would you open the door, please? We've agreed to let these folks talk to the detained party." And the guy sort of he walks over to the door, and you see the door is just held in place. There's not really a lock so much as just there's a piece of rope that is attached to the front of the door that is then wrapped multiple times around a little metal like pole. It's like almost like a kind of like a T sticking out of the door frame, if you will. So it just kind of wrapped around that T to hold it in place, and that's it. But he kind of unravels the rope and pushes the door open. Inside, firstly, you're kind of overwhelmed. There's a definite scent that emerges. It is not a good scent. You could say, in fact, it was a very unpleasant scent. About a 10 by 20 space inside. In one corner, there is a small bucket, and in the diagonally opposite corner, there is a rather scrawny-looking chap. You can see he looks very small. It's kind of hard to gauge his height since he's kind of just huddled on the ground. As the light bursts in, he kind of looks up and squints against the light. You realize there's no windows in there, and his sort of amber eyes blink and kind of like try to, and then squint out at you. You see he's got wispy, sort of mousy brown hair. And he just kind of looks up doesn't say anything. And Carrick says, well, this is risking the small. You may talk to him as you wish. Kenny here will watch you. Kenny, let me know if anything is said that would be important. And you see him sort of straighten up and realize that before he looked like maybe 5'10". You realize when he stands up really straight, he's actually like 6'2". He was really slouching, but all of a sudden he feels rather important. I will leave you with him, maybe not too long. 5 minutes should suffice, I would think. Then come back and we can discuss whatever it is you feel needs to be discussed. And he kind of looks at you, giving you a moment to reply.
I'll pipe up real quick before he takes off. And I'll ask him, have you already decided?
Insofar as we have scheduled his execution, yes.
You yourself, though.
I speak on behalf of the elders, and the elders have decided his guilt, yes.
Is there anything that we say that is actually going to help this kid?
I don't know. I think perhaps that will be a challenge, but you seem like an enterprising bunch.
I'm going to step up behind Bardur.
You keep saying that the elders have already decided. I'm more curious. What is your perspective? Not influenced by them.
You say them as if I'm not one of them. The decision was unanimous.
You did not make it so clear. As if they were the ultimate deciders.
I am every bit an equal member of this eldership. May not have held the position as long as them, but my word carries as much sway as theirs.
How old is Carrick?
Like, looking at him up close, he's young. He's like probably not even 25. From further away, he looks older. He dresses in a way that sort of would look more fitting on someone maybe twice his age. You get the impression maybe he's dipped into his father's wardrobe after his passing.
And you feel that Dane and Werner will treat your opinion as equally, even with as fresh and new to the council that you are.
That was the understanding when I joined, yes. We agreed that I would be brought in at the same level as my father held before me.
Might I ask what your father's name was?
Well, it was also Carrick. I was named after him, as were the 3 generations before that.
Did each of them serve on the council?
As a matter of fact, they did. Yes. The first one was one of the founders of this little village.
How many generations?
Well, that would be... I'm the 5th Carrick to have served on the elders.
Very well. You may go now.
Yes, I will take my leave. Thank you.
Does Kenny stay outside, or is he in?
I mean, there's not a lot of space in there, to be honest. He has no interest in going in. but at the same time, you feel it's very unlikely you could say anything without him hearing. At least, you couldn't have a conversation. You could maybe mutter to someone, but you couldn't have like a conversation that the group could hear without him also hearing.
Yes.
Because at most he's going to be about 10 foot away.
Look over to Riskin. Is he still seated back up against the wall?
Yeah, throughout that conversation, he just sort of slumped back in. He didn't even seem to be paying that much attention. He just sort of rested his head back on his... So he's kind of like sitting in the corner with his knees up and has his arms on his knees and just sort of rested his head on his arms.
Gonna walk up to the cage close to him.
Riskin.
I mean, there's not really a cage.
Oh, it's just open.
It's literally like...
Okay,
No, it's like a 10 foot by 20 foot shack with a simple wooden door. It's a wooden shack with a wooden door, like a thatched wooden roof, and inside it just opens up and he's there. So right now there's just an open door that, if he felt so inclined, he could theoretically just bolt out of.
I am going to subtly cast Detect Thoughts.
Okie dokie.
And I'm just gonna keep an eye on surface level of Riskin.
Okay.
You know what? I'm just gonna dance onto Kenny first for a round, and then jump to Riskin. Interest.
You see that he's taking pride in his position as the guard right now because he has something important to do. Previously, you feel like maybe he was fed up. All of a sudden, something is happening, and he's excited about that.
If I may amend slightly,
yes.
I'm going to do this, but I'm gonna throw it up once Silverius actually gets, just because I know it only lasts for a minute.
Okay.
I'm gonna throw it up once Silverius actually starts probing.
Okay, that's fine.
So I'm just gonna wait for that moment when I feel like Silverius is kind of
Initiating an important
Yes.
conversation. Not just pausing long times.
yeah. And I actually I kind of lean over to Silverius and I just I say the more you can get out of it, the better, and I just tap my head on his head.
Okay, and so that costs 1 sorcery point, and then there's no somatic or verbal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my material, I just kind of touch my my little thing.
Okay.
Absently.
Yeah. No one has any reason to suspect anything.
Just twiddle it round, look around.
Okay. All right. So Varys, I think you were about to say something.
Yeah, I'm gonna kneel down to him without the cage.
Riskin. Open your eyes. Time is short. We have questions.
And he kind of lifts his head slightly and props his chin on his arm and kind of just blinks lazily at you. You kind of lock eyes for a moment. What color are your eyes? Ice blue.
Ice blue.
So you just have this moment of sort of ice blue meeting amber. And he just says, "Well, what's the point? I've already decided my fate."
Fate. Fates are never as decided by mere politicians. Fates are decided by action.
Just kind of shrugs.
I understand. there has been a great many things happening here, largely centered around you.
Yeah, I'm a freak. I don't blame them for what they're doing.
Well,
Is Kenny paying attention? Like looking at us?
So, well, let me check. Did everyone go into the shack?
Yeah, squeezed in as much as possible.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah,
there's definitely room for you all.
Yeah, I'm gonna flank to the side. Just kind of like stand in the like on the side,
Um,
kind of a little bit away.
let's have everyone make a Constitution check, not a saving throw, just a check.
Disadvantage.
Disadvantage for Bador and Silvaris. Yes.
Ooh, natural 20.
Wow.
22.
16 for cassette.
24.
Yeah, that's nice.
And
Um,
disadvantage.
24 at disadvantage. God.
Claire got a 5.
Okay. Now,
smells superb in here.
Claire, you have you've done like a little bit of palliative care in your training. You know, you've worked with people who were sick and dying. Even that didn't smell this bad. This is really rank. You also happen to be the one who ended up closest to the bucket. Someone had to. Turned out to be you. And it's going to be touch and go to see if you can keep down your breakfast. Which is a shame, because it was a really good breakfast.
Everyone starts hearing very quiet little huh.
Kenny seems to be satisfied to be doing his job and keeping guard. He's not paying an awful lot of attention to what's happening on the inside, as far as you can tell.
In that case, when he says he's a freak, Esker's gonna kneel down next to Silvarius and is going to attempt to... I'm not going to subtle cast it. I'm going to attempt to get by a druid craft. You know what? I probably have stuff like this in my pouch, being me. I'm going to pull out a little kind of like a seed pod and just hold it in the palm of my hand in front of him, and I'm just going to make it kind of sprout and grow.
His eyes go really wide.
And I just say,
There are other freaks. Perhaps it is not as strange as you believed.
let me know if he thinks anything that doesn't go with his face.
Okay, I will. He kind of looks at the sprouted seed, and
I just place it down in front of him.
He doesn't take his eyes off it for a second.
Sort of stand back up and let Silvarius continue.
And he slowly reaches down and picks it up and looks at it. How did you do that? Did you do that? I mean, was that something that you could do?
It is just a part of me. In my clan, it is something we are just able to do.
You see a slight smile creep across his face. First time that you've seen him smile. Very faintly, you hear some music drifting on the air. A little harp sound plays. It's very quiet.
I smile and nod back.
And he kind of smiles again, and the music's just that little bit more discernible now. Around him, you also see a couple of butterflies sort of pop in that just sort of land on him. one sort of black and white, just gently sort of fanning its wings. Another one a nice light brown with black spots. Maybe it's okay to be a freak.
Exactly. Just because others don't understand, and maybe even though you don't understand,
Doesn't
Kind of
mean
shakes his
it's-
head.
it doesn't mean it is outright a bad thing. Some things are just beyond what we can fathom.
What are they going to do to me?
They haven't told you.
I mean, I guess I was hoping maybe if there's a reason that I'm late to this, maybe something can be done. Well, I thought I deserved to die, but maybe I don't.
This may be a sharp turn in questioning, but at the beginning of your discoveries, how did you feel? And answer truthfully. This is very important.
What do you mean? How did I feel? Like how? The harp kind of dies down. Like what way?
Well, every way. It's a simple question.
Oh, it is it? Right, my mistake. And you feel the room kind of get slightly colder. I felt confused. I didn't understand. I started to sometimes I could control things. But just by thinking about it, I felt ashamed. Because when people saw what was happening, they were scared of me. And he kind of wipes at his eye and his head drops again.
Did you ever harm anybody? Mean to harm anybody?
And he kind of like his head just quickly darts towards you, Bardor. Says no, I never would have. It only ever happened when nothing hurt anybody. Did they tell you they tried hitting me and beating me?
Yeah, we heard that.
And he like pulls his sleeve up, and you see an arm. Well, you can't see it now. They like lashed me on my arm, and before they could even take a second swing, it started scabbing over and fading away. They did it over and over again, and every time they hit me, it went away.
I want you to know that this is not unheard of. Your discoveries. The world is a much larger place than Holmesford, which brings yet an unanswered question in my mind, that how none of this town can begin to comprehend what is occurring to you. Did this come out of nowhere? Have you heard stories or anything prior?
I know fairy tales. Everybody's heard those. The stories of brave warriors who fought dragons, or the creatures that come and take naughty children in the night. But it's just tales. Sometimes there's a trader who comes from Delsima who we'll stay for an evening meal and sit around the fire telling children stories of strange old men with long beards that make fire come from their hands. Nobody believes him. It's just a story.
Far from it.
Does everything he say feel genuine?
Make insight for me. Out with disadvantage.
Yes, I was not happy.
Let's go for your part.
I was going to ask the same question at some point.
Yeah. Like, everything seems to be pretty much tallying. You don't think that he hurt anybody. Doesn't seem to, like, when he said that, like, sort of talking about when it started, he said it kind of came out of nowhere. That seemed accurate. When he talked about the stories, you feel like there was always like a hope that maybe the stories were true, but nothing more than that. So Various, with your 7, he's quite emotional. That's clear. Nothing so far has really given you any reason to doubt him.
With her hand kind of over her mouth and kind of muffled sounding, Claire will say, just a curious question. I know that the elders said that your parents died when you were young, and I just wondered, are there many orphans in this town?
There's some, I suppose. There's also just, children have died. Adults die. It's, we live in a dangerous area. There's a lot of aggressive bears that roam in the woods where we hunt for deer. The cliff that some people have fallen off was pushed off that cliff. But, well, I survived. I mean, I don't know. I suppose there's people who are missing their parents, but I don't know that it's... I don't know what would be an unusual amount. It feels, some of my friends had both, some had one, some had none. Just depends. I mean, everyone helps anyway, The young children are put together and they learn together. And as they get older, they start learning skills so that they can help the village continue. But that's all we've ever known,
Has anyone stood by you?
And kind of looks at you for a second and just looks down. You hear a sort of a sniff. No. Once my friends, the people I grew up with, saw these things happening, they wanted nothing to do with me. People I used to think of as friends are the ones who pushed me off the cliff. I don't have anybody else. It's just me now. And apparently that's not going to be the case for much longer anyway.
Listen, if we offered to take you with us to a new place to start fresh, would you accept? I should warn you before you answer. It may be more dangerous. Do you think bears, angry bears, are... There is definitely more danger out in the wider world. but there is also more acceptance, more adventure, more possibility to learn what this gift is. These are opportunities that you will never get here.
Kind of.
I cannot speak for everybody, for the rest of my friends here, but I feel strongly like you can have a new life, and you can live with what you are. And I will not let this village persecute.
He like kind of wipes his nose with his sleeve and looks at you as you're saying that. Make persuasion with advantage.
21.
If you can get me out of here, I'll go wherever. I don't understand why I'm like this, or why
Perhaps
you're
it is something
like
that
this.
you can. Perhaps it's something you can learn over. I'm still learning myself as well, trying to understand myself.
I'd like to try.
I do not. I don't wish to be completely condemning of these people. Their experiences are limited. This village seems to have led a charmed life.
Charmed or cursed?
Well, that's a good point.
And a good question.
But either way, their minds are closed to the possibility of such things. So I fear you'll never be able to develop, even if they were to let you survive.
But you think I could learn more about this away from here? Makes sense.
For sure.
Do you have somewhere I can go?
No. Truth be told, I am new to this place. We've begun to make friends in Delsmer itself. But I'm sure we can find you someone to help you, to perhaps take you in. Eska realizes she's making a lot of promises here and kind of turns to the group to gauge their reactions.
Savarius speaks up.
You appear to be greatly misunderstood. And the crops cultivated yield far better when they are nurtured. Your place is not here. As much I can agree on. And it seems any place but here would better suit you.
Your home.
This town.
I thought it was. I thought you were done. It was just a Silverius long pause. Yeah. Claire will just say, your home isn't always necessarily where you were born.
If you can get me somewhere new, somewhere safe, where I can start again, then I would take that opportunity and try to make a go of it.
And I need to be certain. In your entire time here, you have not once had any other townsfolk exhibit similar circumstances. Correct?
Not that I know of, no. Just for reference, your spell has worn off by this point, Eska.
Eska's just looking very determinedly like this is going to happen and like whatever we got to do. She says, well, if we're decided, I don't know the best course of action, but
Ethan sent us here, cast our own judgment, or myself. Currently, death is not justice in this case, but fear and misunderstanding. I say we speak to the elders, play by their rules to begin with.
Does Cassette look reasonably on board, or does Cassette look unhappy with this?
No, she nodded. She was kind of, you could see she was, when he was telling his story, she was kind of tearing up. She definitely feels for him. So
Okay.
Claire's eyes also look teary, but you can't tell if it's from the smell or she's feeling really emotional about his story right now.
Y'all can't really see it, but I mean, well, never mind. You can't see it, so I'll just keep it myself. It happened in my head.
Bardor, why
Have you
why
killed
didn't you
Kenny whilst we were not paying attention?
We open the door and he's like got him pinned down with a knife and
Yeah.
you got
Yeah, right.
Bardor,
The revolution has begun.
why don't you tell the listeners what the other players don't know?
Oh, okay. Well, I can do that. No, I've kind of got my arms crossed, and I'm like basically shaking my head about the whole situation because there's a giant internal struggle going on right now.
Are you heading out at this point? Is that what I'm understanding?
I feel like so Varys
yeah, I think we're all in
Yeah,
agreement.
likewise.
Yeah.
But here's not the best place to talk about it anymore.
We'll be
This
back
will
to you
be-
shortly. Eska just says to Riskin.
Oh, okay. I'll be here, I suppose. He tries a smile. But as you get up to leave, that faint music kind of slowly disappears. And as you walk out, Kenny quickly walks over and grabs the rope and starts lashing it around the piece of metal, and looks very satisfied with himself for a job well done. Just sort of gives you a nod.
As everybody walks out, I just say aloud, it's like he never even tried to run away.
so Varys walks past Kenny without
Kenny tries to make eye contact with you. You're the biggest, and so in his eyes, that makes you the best. And he kind of does this thing where he kind of leans awkwardly as you walk past, trying to get your attention, and just kind of as you walk off, he's sort of like nods in a yeah. What was I thinking? He's far too cool to acknowledge me, kind of way. So where you headed?
Council room.
Okay.
I'm going to say, as we're walking that way, I'm going to say, sort of, not super loud, but to the party, we should, but I'll say, we should, propose banishment as an alternative.
Agreed.
Like exile. And speaking as a dwarf, I think if we speak to Dane on this point, it might convince him. Sometimes exile is a worse fate than death, and in a place like this, that might actually mean.
Good call.
Not a bad angle to take. And I feel this town has no call for judgment. I am often bound by following the laws of regions. And if they have no place or no laws in place, then they have little say in the matter. Perhaps if execution is not their go-to, the banishment could be the swiftest extraction.
It's not a long walk back to the front of the building. And as you get round there, there's actually a small crowd that's gathered and they're sort of starting to file into the town hall. It seems word has got around that the outsiders are coming to speak with the elders regarding the fate of Riskin, and all of a sudden everybody's got an opinion. So inside, it's quite crowded. 30 or 40 people have crammed themselves in and are sort of like filling up the various different sort of patches of I mean, it's not really that many options. There's just an empty area. You see a couple of the older folk have taken up positions on the chairs that are at the back of the building nearest the door, and the three elders have taken up their seats. Verna on the left as you look, Dane in the middle, Carrick on the right. As the five of you walk in, everything kind of goes quiet. 30 to 40 sets of eyes kind of stare at you all. And Verna stands and says, "All right, outsiders, step forward. Let's hear what you have to say on the matter." And the crowd sort of parts, creating a gap for you to walk through. And there is a cleared space in front of the elders' table, for want of a better word. Really, for want of a better table, because all it is just a big wooden table. You've spoken with the villagers, with the freak. I trust you have come to the same conclusion as us. Her mouth is twitching. It's almost like, kind of felt almost like a challenge. Like the idea that maybe you wouldn't have sided with them is kind of preposterous to her.
In agreement, if what you mean he does not belong here, then yes, we agree.
She kind of frowns. That's not quite what I said. And before she can say anything, Dane steps up. So, scaly fella's got something to say. Let's hear it then.
His eyes kind of narrow at Dane.
He returns the look with equal disdain.
What is it that makes you assume you can end his life for simple acts of magic or majesty?
This is a simple and honest village. Our forebears came here and established this place away from the hubbub of the bigger cities because we wanted a quiet life, a simple life. We build our homes with honest, hard work. Our sweat, our aching muscles build these buildings around us. We go out into the fields. We grow our food. Day after day, we go out there, pruning weeds, things that don't belong. We nurture our young. We teach them right from wrong. And then, when something comes in that does not belong, you ask us why we don't seek to prune it, why we don't seek to weed it out, why we don't...
And what makes right from wrong? Answer me that. He has performed nothing wrong, except for what you do not understand.
Tread carefully, big man. This is our turf. You stand in our hall, the hall of our ancestors. We agreed to let someone come and counsel us Your tone is not one of counsel. Bardor, you you are most familiar with Dwarvish culture and the like.
Hey now.
And oh, excuse me. Forgive me. Bardor, you're most familiar with the local Dwarvish culture. Claire, you're familiar with dwarves as well.
You're just a dwarf, and not, nothing else.
Is she not dwarf enough?
I don't know if it's because she doesn't sound like you, because she doesn't have a big enough beard. I don't know. So
she's not as surly as I am. I get it.
You both you see the nostrils flaring in Dane, and he's kind of like when he's describing the village and the whole of his ancestors, and he kind of like firmly puts like a finger down on the table. Countless times you have seen this kind of posturing and gesturing. We'll say sort of like with a passive history check, you would know that there's maybe he's 5 steps away from pulling the axe of his ancestors from his side.
Yeah, fair. I'll kind of because I kind of plan, since I'm short, to kind of stand up next to Silvarius, and I'll just kind of like put my arm up, like on high up on his arm as I can reach, basically. And then I'll be like, might I? I'll just kind of ask him.
Silvarius whips his head down at Bardor and kind of takes a breath and slowly just like looks back at Dane with a little more.
I'll take that as affirmation, I guess. And then I'll say to Dane, why did you ascend to this council?
And Dane's about to speak, and Verna briefly says, we were word got back to Delzimer, we presume from the trader who comes and visits us regularly. He heard that we had placed the young man into the holding pen, and what our intentions were. A messenger came from Delzimer saying that if we did not at least hear out the council, the trader would stop. We agreed to have a council or some representatives come and speak with us, because the trader brings things that there are certain things that we can't provide for ourselves. We didn't say that we would accept the counsel that was provided to us. We just said that we would at least hear them out. We swore to do that. We honor our oath. Simple as that. Aye. We're people of our word. It means something here.
How many executions have you carried out over the last 50 years or so?
This would be the first. And he's kind of like, as he says that, he's kind of grinding his teeth a little bit.
Is it grinding his teeth like he's just pretty much done talking?
Make an insight check.
Perhaps there is another way to resolve this besides having to do such a barbaric act.
It was a 7.
A little hard to read. There's so much hostility that it's kind of hard to read through what might be going on in the background. And to Eske he says, this isn't barbaric or savage. This is doing what we believe to be right. Now, that said, maybe we'll hear you. And he kind of looks to the other two. And Carrot kind of, who's been sort of frantically writing throughout, just looks up and says, I think that would be doing our duty to the village to at least hear what they have to say. Then he kind of just looks back out to you, Eska.
This boy may have been born with these freakish powers that are unexplainable. But that in itself is not his fault. Perhaps to spare such things from the village, without having to resort to the most horrible act, killing, perhaps simply exiling him would solve your problem and be enough to rid yourself of what considered to be something so against what is acceptable.
I'll say, like Dane, I have to imagine you know that exile can sometimes be a worse fate than death.
He kind of gives you a look and furrows his brow. Make a persuasion roll, Eska. This is going to be straight, which is to say that between you and Bardor, you have cancelled out the disadvantage imposed by Silverius.
Okay. That is going to be a 10.
Thanks, Silverius.
I don't see what I...
Of course you don't. Exile. Banishment. And there's like a mutter that kind of goes through the townsfolk as they sort of consider this as well.
Perhaps that is too cruel. Perhaps I shouldn't have suggested it.
No. Hold on. If he swore never to come back, we raised this boy. And he kind of says that to everybody. He knows what an oath means. If he swears not to return, they would believe him. And you can see even Carrick looks a little surprised by this. And then again, there's sort of like a general sort of from the people next to you as they sort of mutter to their companions. Bring the boy in. And someone, you kind of hear the door open behind you and then shut. He looks to Verna, said, "What do you think?" "Well, if he don't come back, good as dead, isn't he?" Right, yes. Good as dead. Couldn't have said it better. His blood isn't on our hands, and that would be nice. There's just this sort of pause.
So Virus is unpleasantly like baring his teeth, not like showing at him, but every now and then it's kind of got this like twitch on it. Just as a general mood, he's
make a straight intimidation roll. They either don't see or don't care. I'm sure you can tell yourself that they just don't see it. That 20 or 30 seconds pass before the door creaks open again, and a slightly unpleasant smell wafts back in. Claire, you kind of have to catch yourself as everything floods back, literally and metaphorically. And you see Kenny coming in, sort of like propping up Riskin, who looks very, very weak. He sort of like shambles in, and everyone gives him like they created a small space for you to walk through. They suddenly find that there's a lot more space for them to move into, and a much wider berth is created for these two as they walk in. Dane looks at him and says, "Riskin, these folks, these wise and learned folks from the city have offered an alternative to your burning. They believe that a banishment from Holmesford would be equally appropriate. We can agree to this on one condition." And you see Riskin kind of... He hadn't really looked at the elders until now, but he looks up and makes eye contact with the dwarf. "You would have to swear an oath to everyone here never to return." "Why would I want to return?" "I swear, with all of my being, I never want to come back here." And there's again another murmur. This time, you can kind of pick up bits and pieces. The general vibe is one of sort of outrage that he would be so quick to turn on his home. And Werner says, "Well, then banishment shall be. Carrick, please note the date. Riskin the Small is henceforth exiled from Holmesford, never to return. Should he place even 1 foot inside this village, his life is forfeit." Riskin just sort of nods, and Carrick is scrolling in his on the papers in front of him. "Very well. I trust you will do us the kindness of taking him with you when you leave."
Of course.
That's another
Damn straight.
Eska gives up on her attempt at diplomacy. Alright. Let's head out.
And as you start to turn, Dane just said, "Tell you what, tell those bastards over in Delsima to keep their nose out of our business in the future, eh? We do just fine here. We don't need their help." And he sits down and just starts talking to Verna.
Did the assembled people sort of seem in agreement with that? Is that the general vibe?
Make an insight check. Yeah. Yeah, you get a distinct feeling that any welcome you previously had has dwindled. Even the ones that you've talked to, who were mostly friendly, are not particularly eager to meet your eyes as you walk out. And Kenny kind of hands Riskin over to you, Eska. You happen to be the closest. So you sort of have...
I pat him on the shoulder.
I
pat Riskin on the shoulder.
Mm.
And
He
sort of guide him in.
He kind of almost falls over briefly and sort of stumbles and catches himself. You are able to walk out of there. As the door closes behind you, the volume picks up. There's a lot of chattering that takes place behind you. A lot of you hear a couple of people sort of raise their voices slightly, but you have walked out and you have Riskin with you.
What time of day is it now?
It's still it's mid-afternoon at this point.
Are there any villagers standing around, or are they all pretty much still inside the town hall?
There's no one really lingering in the center of the town. There's a few people who are still going about work, who had no interest in the meeting. You see one guy with a little cart who appears to be carrying some of the chopped wood from the woodpile towards a home, presumably his. There's some children running about, chasing a couple of the others. He's holding like a stick, acting like he's going to hit them.
I take out my bow and shoot him. Oh, no. I'm kidding.
Target.
Barter turns to the dark side.
Yeah, right.
We gotta get some experience going.
Look, I don't stand bullies, okay?
We could just light the town hall on fire and get a bunch.
Is that how it works?
I'm
Oh, sweet.
Looking a bit green around the gills, Claire just looks to the rest of the group and, I can't stand this. Can you please just shield me from view for like 5 minutes? She kind of gestures with her hands for the group to kind of like block her and Riskin from view for just a minute. As best they can.
If you head over to your horses, you can also get a bit more protection too.
Then we'll do that. Yeah, just basically if she can get kind of shielded from any lingering person's point of view, she is going to prestidigitate the crap out of him.
Okay.
Until he does not smell anymore.
literally prestidigitate the crap.
Yes, thoroughly.
Okay. It does take multiple castings, but with some effort you are able to cleanse the odor from him. What does he now smell like?
Probably just good generic farm smell, outdoorsy.
He smells like a...
I cast Druidcraft on him, so
Fragrant
for
breeze?
6 seconds he smells like nice warm bread.
He briefly smells like a fresh bloomer, and then he goes back to smelling like a field.
I bite him when he smells.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say, as he's sitting there and he's scrawny and they've locked him up for a long time, I'll ask him, and since he smelled like bread for half a second, I'll ask him if he's hungry.
Yes, very. And you realize now he's standing and you're close to him and he's kind of away from his confines. He's about 5'9". So he's not the tallest, but he's not as small as he probably appeared.
He's a good 1.5 foot taller than Claire and I, so you know.
That's true. He definitely is lacking a little bit in the body mass department, though. Definitely scrawny. Looks a little malnourished.
I'll give him a full day's rations.
It disappears with remarkable speed. Everything else he's done so far has been incredibly slow. He's walking slowly. Sometimes he blinks slowly. His speech isn't particularly quick. His eating, however, is very rapid.
As he's destroying that, I'll pull out my flask, and I'll take a big old swig, and I'll just offer it up and pass it around to anybody who wants a swig.
What's in this flask again?
It is dwarven
mead. Was he included in the offer?
Of course.
Was that the plan? So he goes to sip it and splutters a little bit as he drinks it. Wow, that's... I thought you were going to give me water.
I legitimately laugh. And I'll be like, well, and I'll offer him my water skin.
No, I was fine. I just didn't expect it.
My apologies.
No, I probably need some water as well, but it just caught me off guard. And he kind of drinks from both and kind of perks up a little bit. You think you might hear that vague harp noise again in the background.
Right.
Just so you know, you do not need to take that name they gave you.
My dad was risking the big, so it just kind of made sense because I was littler than him. Suppose I could just be called
Okay.
Riskin. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like anyone's going to know my dad when I get away from here.
That's what I mean. It is up to you. I mean, we will help get you on your way, but your choice is your own now.
I didn't ask before. What are all of you called?
My name is Eska.
Okay, Eska. No, I don't like that name. For myself, sorry. I was just considering if it might take another name. And you? He says
Bardor. I'd say Bardor.
barn door? As in, can't hit the broadside of a barn door?
I'll have you
That's
know
right.
that I can, thank you. But no, it's Bardor.
Oh, sorry.
It's more of a bar door, but soften the door part.
My mistake, sorry.
No way.
Not used to dwarvish word.
So Varius is actually like away from the group. He's just kind of like angry, saddling up Chad, like getting,
I just pulled up the name.
muttering in.
And you, who made me smell better?
Oh, my name's Claire.
Claire. Well, thank you, Claire, for making me not reek so much. That was unpleasant.
You didn't exactly smell like a spring flower to me either.
No, they didn't change that bucket very often. And you're very quiet. What's your name?
I'm Cosette. It's nice to actually be able to help you. I was a little nervous that we weren't going to be able to succeed.
I'm still not sure what this all means for me moving forwards, but I
It
appreciate you.
means you're moving forwards.
Suppose it does. And the big scaly guy, what's his name? Why is he in such a bad mood? I mean, I thought you guys got what you wanted. You were able to convince them to let me leave with you. Shouldn't he be happy?
Silverius. He is Silverius, and that is him in a good...
Yeah, I'd say so.
He's been this unpleasant since we've known him.
Oh, he's not a jolly chap. For now, I will stay as Riskin. I think I like that name. You know, it means something to me. And if you're going back to Delzimer, I'd like to see it and see more of the world beyond this stupid little village.
There's a lot to see.
Well,
Do we,
I'm gonna
can we share
Go
a
ahead.
horse with somebody?
Ponies are pretty much capped out at a dwarf. Any of Chad, Matilda, and Leroy would be capable of carrying a Riskin in addition to their normal rider.
I mean, he should be pretty light. He's nothing but risking and buff.
Oh,
my
dear.
How long have you been waiting on that one? Huh?
That's it.
Perfect.
That's the entire reason he's not been. He roleplayed leaving the party for 5 minutes or so.
He's got 12 more written down. Waiting
Yeah.
for
There's
drop.
something here. I know it.
I mean, Eska will offer. She kind of feels a little responsible for, you know,
Okay.
and she's pretty light, so
Yeah, and of course you have a good rapport with Matilda.
I do, yeah.
I'm gonna actually try to make friends with this horse again of mine, Gertrude. So I'm gonna like do the whole like food trick again, get out some dried apple.
Okay.
And try.
You can make another animal handling with advantage.
Well, I do
straight.
have disadvantage, so it'd be straight.
Straight roll, yes.
This
Second.
stupid horse hates me.
It hovered on the 16, and it was like, nah, just kidding.
Yeah.
I know you.
That is exactly what you rolled last time.
Yep.
A 5. Gertrude is as grumpy and unresponsive as before. So she eats like 3 or 4 pieces, and then you give her one more, and she like chews it a couple times, and then spits it on your shoe. But yeah, you're able to mount up. Would anyone like to attempt to woo their horses better than last time? Or are you all happy with where you're at?
Just to not risk it, Claire's going to be happy with her slightly unhappy horse.
Fair enough.
I didn't get kicked off last time, so I think I'll stick with what I got.
Yep.
Oh, I had the rain. Yeah, so I did pretty well on the last one. Yeah, I'm happy.
So, the 6 of you on your 5 steeds roll out of town, leaving Holmesford in the non-existent rearview mirror. Based on the time, you should get into Delzimer right around sundown. It takes a little while, but eventually the familiar skyline come into view with the Drake Warden guardhouse visible, and the wall rises to meet you, and you're able to ride in. The guards don't really give you any trouble. It's not any of the guards you know, but there's a certain amount of information that's sort of being passed around between the guards now about this ragtag group of 2 dwarves, a giant dragonborn, a little elf, a human wearing rather dingy armor, sort of moving around as a group, and seem to have earned some favor with some folks in town. So there's a little bit of reputation gain that's happened at this point. So no trouble. Are you heading back to Dawkins directly with the horses?
I feel like we should, because the longer we don't, the more likely the Atta will die on us.
So you ride back over there and dismount, and kind of the doors closed, but you kind of bang on it loudly, and after about a minute, the door you hear some grunting and the sound of a bar being shifted, and the door slowly drags open. Hello? What do you want? Oh, it's you lot. Who's he? Are there only 5 of you?
Yes.
Right.
He's,
Oh, that's fine. All right, let me look at these horses then. All right, Chad. And he kind of literally just looks the horse over, mutters something to the horse in sounds like maybe Elvish. Those that understand it, just it's like soft words. It's nothing. It's just sort of like there, calm down, everything's fine. I'm sorry, the big guy sat on you, that sort of thing. And come over to. Right, he's fine. Right, Matilda, let's have a look. Okay, all good. Leroy, bit dirty. Never mind, I'll wash that off in the morning. Wendy. Yeah, no, that's fine. Oh my. I haven't seen Gertrude in this kind of a mood, and it's been a while, let's say that. And he pulls out what looks to be a peach from his pocket and hands it, and Gertrude immediately looks perkier and starts chomping down on this peach. as he just sort of like checks her over, and like, right, yep, she's fine. And as he says that, Gertrude spits the pit of the peach out at Bardor. He chuckles.
I just narrow my eye.
Oh, she
Narrow
don't
my
mean
eyes.
it. Don't mean it. It's fine. And he whistles loudly, and one of his stable boys comes and sort of grabs the reins of a couple of the horses and leads them in, and then sort of scurries back. Right, well, you know where you are if you need more business. I appreciate your patronage. Now, I guess I've got to give you your deposit back, and he kind of reaches into his pouch and pulls out a little book, and he's like, "Odd. Why does it say here there was no deposit? Why on earth would I?" Well, well, I guess you brought him back safe. So, good enough for me. Tell you what, you want them again? You just pay the 10 gold, and you can rent them again, 10 gold per day, at your leisure. Suppose. Apparently, that's what I agreed to. I don't remember doing that, but
Eska just smiles. That's very gracious.
Yes, you were very kind to us. And I was wondering if maybe to repay a bit of your kindness, if by chance you had any tack that needed mending, I could take a look at it for you.
to be honest with you, I'm tired. But I'll bear that in mind. Maybe you stop by not at dinner time, like you just did, and we'll see about that. And he starts, like, not very subtly trying to close the door. Pretty much in your faces. Night, thank you.
Evening.
Good night.
As you're saying that, he's already, like, lifting the bar back on, grumbling about food getting cold. And then there's no more noise from beyond the door. That's a strange man. Well, I say man, halfling. What happens now?
That's a good question. What does everybody think? I had wondered about taking him by the dead branch, seeing if he had any ideas.
Maybe the Silverius' order might have an idea.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe
Yes.
Kaylee could help out at least for the night and give him a place to stay.
Do we have any, just from what we've seen him do we have any idea of what, like maybe where his powers are manifesting from?
Make an Arcana check.
Can I end up doing that too? Just from
You may.
he would be.
Yes.
Could
Probably still
Claire
better
get
than
in on
me.
that Arcana?
Claire, you can give me a straight roll. Oh my.
Oh!
Dang on.
Oh,
Natural 20 for Claire for a total of 25.
Okay. So Eska, you're pondering this, and you're not really sure exactly what it might be. So Varys and Claire independently come to the conclusion that just based on your various studies and so on, what you know of the way that magic works, you actually think that it ironically seems kind of similar to the way Eska seems to use magic. There doesn't seem to be any divine connection like you have, Claire. There's obviously no spellbook or anything like that's involved here. You don't, and this is clearly not a taught. This is not a taught skill at all. So you think it's some sort of naturally occurring magic that's sort of innate to Riskin. In a out of character perspective, you would assume that sorcerer. You're not sure if maybe this is like wild magic or if it's just untamed magic.
Well, should we perhaps...
Perhaps he can follow us to Cretan.
do you,
We discuss with him.
you don't think they would be offended by that?
What's a Grethen?
He's a reason why you're still here.
That sounds like a good place to go.
I do not imagine my brethren will be offended.
Will they be there now? Should we head right over?
Okay, so you head over to the Shrine of Moradin. Heading inside, you find Kelly in conversation with Grethen, and Fax and Findex are there too. They look a little bit sleepy, like maybe they've just woken. I get the impression that maybe they are on duty tonight, but everyone seems to be in good spirits. Grethen says, "Shavarius, you have returned. I was getting concerned. The sun has set, and time was running short."
My apologies. There was much friction that kept us delayed.
Friction? Who is this with you?
This is Riskin, the individual we were sent to cast judgment.
I see. And why is he here?
It was my assumption. It may have been wrong to bring him here. I did not know if you wished to inquire anything in particular, but we came to the conclusion he was ill-suited to remain in.
I see. What was your conclusion then?
We came to understand that Holmesford is not welcoming to anything of the extraordinary. Riskin exhibited a blossoming of traits ill-suited. From my guess, he's manifesting sorcerer-like abilities.
And you see sort of Grethen raise his eyebrow. Is that so? No wonder they were so scared.
They were fools, sir.
Yes. Fools indeed. They resist what they don't understand, and they keep the world at arm's length, and have done for many years, as I understand from Kelly. I am relieved you were able to save this man's life, though. Especially for his crime is being other. Riskin, come, sit. We are about to have a meal brought to us. You are welcome to break bread, drink mead, and relax with us. What do you intend to do after this? And Riskin just kind of goes, and looks to the party. I don't know. What do I do from here? And he addresses that to you five rather than Greethan or Kelly.
Now is the time to start anew, Riskin. Leave that backwards, unjust town behind you. We can further discuss at a more opportune time.
I don't mean
Yeah.
to seem ungrateful, but I have nowhere to sleep. I have no home, no belongings. What do I do?
Do you know what you'd like to do? Do you have things that you enjoy?
I mean, I've farm work. I did a lot of that, but I mean, I cleaned as well. I'm not sure what else. I didn't have much chance to do things for fun or to really push myself, you know.
I wonder if finding some general work to get by should be possible. And maybe we can help to find somebody to help you understand the more curious side of your nature.
He sort of nods, his hair sort of wafting a little bit. Still very unkempt. I'd like to learn to control it better. I don't. It seems to just sort of happen at the moment. But you seem to have more of a hold over what you're doing. You did that thing with the seed. I've not seen that before. That was great. I like that.
Yes, I may not be the best example. I have some control over what I'm doing, but I'm very much coming to grips with it too.
So there's others here who can do things like that.
Yes, we all have our different ways of doing things, but
And he sort of looks around at you and he's like, "Wait, it's not just Eska who can do this stuff. Out of you five, I just assumed."
Did you not notice when I just made the smell disappear off of you?
I didn't really understand what was happening. I have to understand I was kind of confused at the time.
When I said the world was a much bigger place, I meant it in more than one way. You are not alone.
You just see like a little tear go down his cheek. It's like, didn't understand. I thought it was gonna die. I thought I was the only one like this, and then you all have this power.
And a better understanding of what is right and what is wrong. That town, they will never understand. Leave them in your past. Sleep tonight. View the world with fresh eyes.
Kelly sort of leans over and says, "There's always room for weary souls here at the shrine. You can rest, recover. We'll help you get back on your feet." Seems kind of lost for words, but dries his eyes and just sort of nods and kind of looks down a little bit.
You should get a good night's sleep. The world might seem a little bit brighter in the morning.
Think it will. Aye. And about that time, some food arrives again, brought in by various dwarves and halflings, and once again it seems like the Order of the Dawning Sapphire is spending their per diem on the available food and beverages that Delsma has to offer. And it didn't take long for everyone to feel the warmth of the alcohol warm them up a little bit. Feels good to...
Tavares actually doesn't drink this time.
Mhm.
I will, at some point, I will just pull Kaylee aside when nobody's really attention.
Yeah, it's easy enough.
I will hand him 5 gold, just say, just let him know it's to look after the it will get on his.
He sort of nods and he's about to protest, and then he kind of thinks about it and he's like, aye, thank you. Well, we'll put it to good use, don't worry. Maybe start with some fresh clothes, eh?
Yeah,
Looks a bit
good.
bedraggled.
Sounds like he's done some cleaning work in the past. Perhaps he could help you out around here.
Oh, aye. You guys keep tracking in all sorts of dirt, so there's cleaning to be done here. We can even, between here and Semlins, maybe we could see how he fares, assist him with some of the forge work. We'll find something for him to do. Don't worry. I think you're probably going to have your hands full over the next couple of days, so you can leave him with me. I just heard what's lined up for you tomorrow, and it makes me glad that I am not an adventurer.
Oh boy.
And he
I guess we
he
better
pops
go
the
find out.
gold aside. And as the meal comes to an end, Greethin stands and says, well, friends, time has come to start the vigil again. As before, Silvarius, you know, you must take this vigil with no rest. To his companions, I ask, will any of you stay awake with him to support him in his quest and join him in this sacrifice?
If Silvarius doesn't mind, I actually would like to stay up with him tonight. And she just kind of turns and looks at him.
He remains looking straight towards Greeth and just kind of nods.
I'll perk up and say, my apologies, Silvarius, but I need my rest tonight.
There's a little like a...
I feel like I could join you two as well.
Eyes kind of shift over to Eska.
But it is.
But it is what?
Oh, his part.
You and your soft-spokenness.
Sorry. It's us elves. That's what.
Very
us
well.
elves. That's what we do. This is my new podcast voice.
That's a no from me, dog.
You picked up...
Yes.
It's funny how
Bardor
after
told
5
me.
minutes you sound worse than Bardor, who's probably been smoking since he was born.
They say it's the worst in the first couple of days.
Here's your bottle and here's your pipe.
You heard here, kid.
Very well. We will move down into the crypt below and make preparations. Tomorrow, you have another intervention, though different, I think. I'll go into more detail in the morning, but you will need to have your wits about you. Thankfully, I think this is a different kind of stupidity you find tomorrow. And he kind of leads you guys downstairs. Sethraka and Vizira are positioned either side of where the sword remains on the little altar down there. And they kind of acknowledge the arrival of Greethin and the rest of you. At which point they trade places with Fax and Findex. For those who maintain the vigil with Silvarius, know that you will be rewarded in the morning for your sacrifice.
I'm already building a cot in the back. Laying down my little bedroll. Get my blanket out.
The adventure you face tomorrow will almost certainly end in blood. Maybe another way can be found, but it seems unlikely. We'll discuss more in the morning. Just be prepared for a fight. And he specifically looks at Claire and Cassette when he says that. Unless there's anything else you need of me tonight. I suggest you get some... Well, kind of looks at my door and says, I suggest you get some rest, Master Dwarf. The rest of you. Think about the sacrifice that you're making. You may talk freely. This is not a silent vigil by any means. Just don't keep the dwarf up. I don't think he'll thank you. I will see you in the morning. He kind of yawns and heads upstairs. So before the rest, the other four of you kind of figure out where you're going to set up for the night, you start hearing rather aggressive snoring noises coming from the back of the chamber. Bador seems to be tuckered out and is he's already drifted off. Bador, you do lose your temporary hit points. I will go ahead and say, so Virus, you go up to 2 levels of exhaustion. Claire, Cosette, and Eska, you are now at 1 level of exhaustion. So Virus, you are at half speed. 4 of you, Virus, Claire, Cosette, and Eska, will have disadvantage on ability check, or disability on vantage checks, if you prefer. So, was there anything you guys wanted to do overnight?
Shortly after, kind of Greethan leaves and Bardur starts sawing logs, Silvarius walks over to Bardur and just kind of looks at him a little bit on the ground sleeping. And then he walks over to Eska and just says in Draconic, a simple just,
Thank you.
not knowing kind of what else to say, he starts to turn and just head back over.
As you're kind of walking away and as you're kind of getting further away, she just messages into your head. Of course. In a sort of, with an attempted sort of, friendly tone.
He kind of like slows his step and then keeps heading towards the sword. He's got a semi-off aura about him, just sort of passively. I mean, he's focused, but the day definitely frustrated him.
Anything else happen overnight?
Claire is pretty much just going to spend the first part of the night writing in her new journals that she purchased last time. And then when she's done with that, she is going to light a couple sticks of incense and kind of just meditate and pray to her goddess.
Cassette doing anything?
I'm gonna switch out one of my spells. I just haven't figured out what.
Okay.
I know that's part of like the morning routine, but that would be. So maybe just kind of thinking and kind of praying and just kind of preparing yourself to, be a little bit prepared differently for the next day.
And Kedox actually comes down and sort of curls up next to Silvarius. Seems he's been maintaining vigil over the sword as well. And eventually, time passes. It's a long night. Eska, you're perhaps the most accustomed to... I mean, sleeping isn't really a thing you do.
I try really hard to avoid going into a trance.
Yeah. And you kind of have to sort of like jog yourself a couple of times. As it.
I think, yeah, I think when I find myself struggling, I think she's gonna she might do something.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's gonna attempt to take. I have like a square foot of manticore hide.
Yep, I remember that.
She's gonna attempt to fashion it to something.
What sort of something?
I don't know. Some kind of. She basically wants to kind of wear it. I can't remember what it would be like. I guess it would be sort of furry, because they're sort of manticores are sort of.
I mean, they have an amount of lion
Yeah.
in them. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that it was probably a furry patch.
She's gonna sort of fashion it into a like a shoulder, sort of like, because she kind of wears her, like traveling cloak and whatnot. She's
Mm-hmm.
gonna attempt to sort of like a sort of shoulder pad, but a little bit more big and kind of just sort of almost integrated on top of the cloak. Not sort of a bulky shoulder pad, but just sort of a slight ornamentation, I guess, to the cloak.
Okay. What tools do you have?
I've got daggers and jeweler's tools.
Make
Maybe
a general dex check and a performance check. These will be straight rolls for now.
6. And
what did you roll on the actual die itself?
It may have been a 1.
May have been a 1. Okay.
Performance check. 21.
Okay. You started out with about a square foot, give or take. Not having worked much with manticore hide in the past. You're a little heavy-handed, and you damage a fair amount of it. But you are able to create, in time, a nice little pat. It actually ends up kind of looking a little bit like a manticore, and you're able to kind of create a little patch that you can sew onto your onto the shoulder piece with your jeweler's tools and a little bit of loose thread and bits and bobs.
Maybe I use some needle and thread from the healing kit.
Yeah,
While
that makes
nobody's
sense.
All right, cool. Yeah, she just kind of does that to occupy her time.
Unfortunately, the patch ends up being more like maybe 4 or 5 inches across. Certainly a lot smaller than your original piece of material. But nevertheless, I mean, it looks pretty good, all things considered. Eventually, night passes. Logs stop being sawed. And Grethen joins you back downstairs. Good morning. I trust the night passed well for you all. And he kind of looks around and then decides not to wait for a response. I am certain that you wish to know your task for the second day of Sylvarius' initiation. So, we received word of a local noble daughter's kidnapping. A ambitious tribe of bugbears found a way to capture the young girl. I believe she's 15 or 16 years old. They greatly misjudged the availability of funds that this family has. Demanded 4,300 platinum pieces in ransom. The family cannot afford 4,300 platinum pieces. It turns out they're not in a position to hire a suitable set of mercenaries to liberate their daughter. But it reached our ears, and there is still time for a suitable, as I said yesterday, intervention by Silvarius and his companions. The bugbears have made a camp just a few hours from here on the edge of the woods. It is imperative is returned safely. Reports are inconclusive. There was 2 guards were killed when they captured the noble. 1 survived with severe injuries and is recuperating. He believes at least 3 or 4 bugbears were involved, but it may have been more.
Any idea of their dispositions, weapons? Are we ever going to run into any spellcasters, anything like that?
He did not mention magic use, though unlikely. It is possible that one of them has somehow gained access to some arcane powers, yes. It's certainly worth being prepared for that in case that is what happens. Before I forget, just so you can confirm you have the right noble girl, her name is Julith? Yes. Julith Windale. Not necessarily a powerful family here, but they have connections, so I'm told.
And they are from here.
Yes. Yes, they make their home here in Delsima.
And when did this kidnapping start?
A couple of days ago. They sent word that that there should be a ransom drop delivered to them within 3 days. So today may be the last day that they are willing to negotiate. When the family had been trying to figure something out, but the funds were just unobtainable.
And you said there was 1 kidnapper, 1 survivor.
Yes.
Is he well enough to speak to briefly?
I should imagine so. I believe he was back at the family's house, just north of here. Bardur, you would know the name Windale. The Windale family is an affiliate of House Surratt, specifically the trainee priest Hoon Windale. You would assume that Julith is some sort of relative of his. Hoon is well known to be a close friend of Julin Surratt. You are very familiar with their sort of standing as, while they're not, they're by no means on the level of House Surratt in terms of prominence within the city. The Windales, merely by association, have a lot of sway.
Have I actually had any interactions with them?
You would probably have had some brief encounters with a couple of members of the family. It's doubtful that you would have ever crossed paths with Julith. Not knowingly anyway.
Just out of my own personal curiosity, not that this is going to influence my decision or anything. But what is my opinion of these people?
I think you would see them as being similar bearing to the House Surratt folk. I think you don't necessarily directly bear them ill will. You know, they like the finer things. They are a little bit hobnobby. What makes the Windales particularly grating is that they carry themselves like they were House Surratt, without the financial clout or business holdings to back it up. Very well. So, the task is simple. Bring Julith back alive. That's it. Some of you kept watch with Silvarius last night. Bardur, would you go up and let Kelly know we will be taking our breakfast now?
I nod and head upstairs.
You kind of know what's coming, having been through this yesterday morning, but and Silvarius, you probably are aware as well. But Greethan kind of talks to the four of you for a little bit, explaining about the importance of making the right decision at the right time, appropriate use of resources, learning the balance between when to fight, when to run, when to disable and when to kill, and just kind of primes you for what may be ahead. Each of the four of you, Silvarius, Claire, Cosette, and Eska, gain the benefits of the Inspiring Leader trait, and receive 20 temporary hit points that will last you through until this evening. And so, with breakfast prepared ahead of you, and then a quick stop at the Windale Manor before heading out, I think that is probably a perfect time to end the session. And next session, session 17, we will come back and we will see if you guys can save Lesser Noble's daughter.
Punch some stuff.
You
no,
don't
knowing
know.
us, we'll try to be best buds with them or something. We'll try to help them.
Did he say bugbears or bud
Well,
bears?
I was gonna say, what if it ends up being some kind of like Romeo and Juliet situation? She's actually like in love with one of the bugbears.
Don't give him ideas.
It's a hug.
I'm not gonna really think that.
Writing intensifies.
Yeah, what?
Adding dramatic flair.
Thanks for listening this week. Let's see where things trail to next week as we go on another more violent sounding adventure. I guess we'll see. Please feel free to like, subscribe, all of those various things if you're watching on YouTube, or of course you can listen to it in podcast form, in the usual places. We'll see you next time, and goodbye for now.